All right, good morning, everyone. Going to give just about 60 seconds for folks to get in and get joined. We have about 40 people registered for the webinar this morning, so uh, we'll wait just a second and then we're going to dive right in since we've only probably got about 30, maybe 40 minutes together. But it's good to see you all. Hope you're all faring well as you've weathered through tax season and now you're getting ready to start up budget prep stuff. All right, we are going to get started here and start talking about some spring software updates. Got some really exciting stuff to show this morning. And if we have enough time, I've even got a couple of sneak peeks of some upcoming stuff that we're currently working on. So looking forward to diving into some of that. Um, David, my trusty sidekick in the support world, will be joining us here in just a minute. He'll be kind of watching the chat, but if I miss something, just give me some grace as I'm kind of jumping back and forth between three different screens right now. So I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on everything, and then David will be watching for questions and stuff. Feel free to drop them in the chat, and feel free to just unmute yourself and ask a question. That's fine as well. So all right, well let's dive in. I want to thank everyone once again for spending some time with us this morning. And let's talk about some spring software updates. We're going to just talk about three main things this morning. We've got some AB report stuff that I'm going to show you, just some account updates. Many of you are probably already aware of some of the changes that are happening with certain accounts going away, some funds changing, some new funds that have been added for this fiscal year. So we're going to talk about that very briefly, and I'll show you what we've done on our end to help with some of that. We'll talk about the thing that you are all most likely here for, which is the 401k PERSI updates. And then we'll also talk about some other updates that are in process right now that we're still working on. We won't release those just yet, but there's a couple of exciting things that we've got happening here. So let's dive right into the AB report, change to the chart of accounts. And again, many of you have probably already seen this in some form or fashion, either one of the state webinars that was hosted or you've got the documentation at some point in front of you. But the main thing is we have a new fund for fiscal year 25, which is Fund 436. The good news is that that's already been added to AB report. It's recognized as a valid iFarms fund. So, and there's nothing that you need to do to make that happen. It's just built into the program. So as soon as you add Fund 436 to your budget account setup on the budget program, AB report is going to recognize that fund automatically as being a new and valid fund. So that's nice. And then for fiscal year 25, there's also a number of removals that are happening. And what we've done on the program is instead of removing them wholesale and just having them disappear, because you may need to report on that stuff, for a previous fiscal year, we've actually updated the printed reports with a very simple note for some of those accounts where it's just going to tell you, hey, don't use this after fiscal year 24. So one example of that is the 437 account code. That's going away and should not be used for this fiscal year. And so what we've done for all of those various spots where it's a code that you shouldn't be using, you're going to see in parentheses, don't use after fiscal year 24. Now, it doesn't stop you from accidentally, coding a transaction potentially to that particular account. But when you print, say, your annual report and you see a value there, that'll be a really good clue for you to go back and look for what might have been entered into that account and then figure out which account it probably actually needs to be coded to. So you'll see that throughout the budget reports and the annual reports, just as a simple way for you to recognize that, hey, these shouldn't be in use, but if they are in use, it's a flag for you to go do a little research on the budget and see why a transaction was coded after that. And like I said, we can't remove these wholesale from the actual reports, because if you need to go back and print a report for a previous fiscal year, that's going to need to be on there. So that's one little update that you'll see to the actual annual and budget reports. And this update, the removal, we'll say, of accounts, it does require a minor update for you all uh, to do. And it's a pretty straightforward process. We're basically going to share two files with you. And if you're on Postgres, you're going to import the files through the Manage Database tool. It's really quick and easy. And we'll send instructions with the update email that we'll be sending out here shortly with how to do that. If you're on the ISOM version, which I don't see any ISOM users in here at the moment, same thing, you get two files, but you don't have to import them. You just drop them into your AB report folder. Cindy, do charter schools add Fund 436? I don't believe so. I believe that's a public school addition, but I would probably need to double check just to be 100% positive. But I believe that's just a public school addition. Good question. Yeah, so if you're a charter school, I don't think you need Fund 436. So those are our AB report updates. Very, very simple, just a couple of changes to the actual reports, recognition of some new funds, recognition that there's some things going away. And we've tried to do it in a way that is straightforward and allows you flexibility depending on what you need to print. So that's our AB report updates. Now, let's talk about the 401k stuff, which is probably the reason basically all of you are here this morning, is to see what this thing is, what you need to do, and those types of things. So let's talk a little bit about the background of what this is, what the change is actually happening at the because of what Percy is doing, and then I'll show you the program and what we've done to facilitate some of those changes. So fundamentally, what's happening here is you have your regular Percy contributions, which all of you are creating that transmittal every single month, and then every employee has access to an optional 401k that they can contribute to. What Percy has decided is that the main contributions are going to be one upload, and the 401k contributions are a separate upload that's going to go directly to the bank that manages the 401k for the employees. So you've likely all seen some emails from Empower. That's the bank that is going to be handling the file upload. And what we've had to do is go back and kind of rebuild a transmittal from the ground up, because the file format for Empower, the bank, is unfortunately completely different than the Percy transmittal that we send to Percy every single month. So we've had to go and build something kind of from the ground up to facilitate this particular change. And what this means for you is, because it's a different file and a different format, every month when you do your Percy transmittals, you now have to build two separate files. One for your main Percy transmittal that you'll upload to Percy just like you've always done. And then now you're going to have to build a second file that's going to go to Empower for the 401k contributions. Now, if you don't have anybody contributing to the 401k option, you do not have to do this. I don't know of too many schools that have zero people contributing, but if you happen to be one of those schools and you have nobody doing the optional 401k, you actually don't need to do this process because there's nothing to report. That said, if you have at least one employee contributing to the optional 401k, you're going to have to add this to your regular monthly process and workflow in order to send this information over to the bank. So that's kind of the background on what's changing and how it affects you as a business manager. And like I said, what we've tried to do is make this as straightforward and as simple as possible, in that the way that you're going to build this file, it lives in the exact same spot as your current Percy transmittal that you build every single month. So let me shut down this PowerPoint really quickly, and let me pull up our updated payroll program here. And log into my dummy account here. And on the surface, of course, you're not going to notice anything different about the program. Um, a couple of things that I'm going to point out before we get to how you actually build the file. Most of you are going to have this set up because you're doing your Persi transmittal. But if you go to options and then retirement, the thing that you want to make sure is correct here is your employer code. The bank requires this code. This is your Persi code that you use all the time. Just double check and make sure it's correct because we have to use that in about 4 different places when we create the file. And the other thing I'll point out is this folder for retirement transmittal. This works for the new 401k transmittal as well. If you leave it blank, this is just going to save the file to your payroll folder. Or if you want to get real crazy and save it to, say, your desktop, um, you could say, hey, save my transmittal files to my desktop and then save your options. Makes it a lot easier to find instead of having to wade through your entire payroll folder. As a matter of fact, you could even create a retirement transmittal folder somewhere on your computer and then select that as the save spot. So that's a really handy little tool to make it a little easier to find the file after it's been created. But most of you should have this already filled out. You probably don't need to change anything here. Just double check that it's correct. Um, so that's that. Other than that, you're going to go to retirement just like you always do. And what you're going to see on the screen is right next to your normal build transmittal button. We now have a build 401k transmittal button. And when you click that, you're going to get a little pop-up window that has a little bit of instructions on there for you. But this fundamentally works almost identical to the existing Persi transmittal. You're going to specify the beginning and end dates if they're different from what's automatically selected. And the only caveat that is a little different than your normal transmittal is your 401k checks have to have been moved to history first. So if you forget to move to history, it's not going to pick up the 401k contributions. There's a technical reason why we had to do it this way that doesn't really matter for our purposes this morning. But just make sure you've moved the checks to history before you build this thing. Specify your dates, and just like your regular transmittal, you're going to click build. This is going to go really fast because this is just some fake data with one employee. But even with about 100 or 150 employees, it still only takes about 2 seconds. So that's how you build the file. A couple of questions in the chat there. I missed the transparency. Wendy, it's possible that the account removals would affect your transparency report. Yes. So if you're using one of those accounts and you upload the transparency report, the state will reject it. Usually they'll give you like a little download that will explain which uh, account is causing the problem. And if you
Uh,
share that info with us, we can probably help you figure it out. So
uh,
just give us
uh,
a call or email us.
can I make a comment on that?
You sure can.
Yeah, it's I've looked at the code and my codes so something I'm going to say this something has changed because my errors are on codes that are valid.
Oh,
So
interesting.
yeah, it's on I'll tell you the one that's throwing the error is the Title 4, my revenue code on the Title 4, which is a valid code. They've always gone through before, but now it's triggering an error on it. So I
Hmm.
don't know if something's changed. Something's changed, but I don't know on what end.
It
And I imagine it must be this somehow.
probably. So it wouldn't be the
Okay.
first time that a code has changed and we didn't know about it. We had one earlier this year, which I don't remember exactly what it was related to, but it was not documented anywhere. And I had to email the state to find out what we were supposed to do. So if you don't mind, if you have a minute sometime this week or early next week, send me the info because I may have to do another email to the state to find out what's going on.
Okay. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks, Wendy. Cindy, you asked which transmittal contains the loan payments. So right now it would be both, and the reason being is Persi did not make us change any of that, so it's actually going to be contained in both for the loan payments, which seems a little strange at the moment, but that's what they've uh, said that we're doing for the time being. Um, So yeah, good question, Cindy. I imagine that's going to change here by the middle of the year because there's some additional Percy changes in the pipeline that you may or may not have heard about just yet, which I'll talk about here in a bit. Um, yeah. Oh, that code's going away, Amy says. Um, that's good to know. I'll have to ask Todd myself so we have clarity on that. Um, can I repeat what I just said about loan payments? Yes. Right now, loan payments are going to be reported in both files. So it's not going to double anything up on your end, as far as I understand it. Um, but both files, so your main Persi transmittal is actually still going to contain all of the 401k data as well for right now. So it's going to feel strange for a minute if you're looking at your main Persi transmittal that you upload to Persi. It'll still have the 401k contributions and the loan repayments. Um, like I said, there's some Persi changes happening in the middle of this year that I'll talk about here shortly, where I suspect that's going to change. But for the moment, what Persi allowed all the software companies to do is just focus on building the new file and no modifications to the existing file. So the payment itself, as far as I understand it, will go to Empower, but you'd probably want to double check with Empower just to make sure I'm telling you the right thing. But my understanding is it goes to Empower. Yeah, good questions. Kyla, I don't know what melon is, so I suspect not. So I've worked primarily with the Persi folks exclusively, and they connected me with a representative from Empower Bank. Um, so I'm wondering if Melon is your previous 401k, but I don't know that to be true. So oh, gotcha. My understanding is that everything gets run through Empower now. Like all the documentation they sent me, again, they may have sent something different to you all, but everything they've sent me indicates that everything is flowing through Empower.
When
And
you go,
yeah, go ahead,
sorry,
Elaine. No, you're
when
fine.
you go, when you go into the Empower to upload, I've been doing mine just, I got their form, filled it out. I only have a few people
Sure.
and do it. And it'll directly withdraw from Empower out of your bank account. So you don't
Cool.
do Melon anymore. Melon's still Percy, but the Empower you set it up through Empower to directly withdraw it from your account, from your checking account.
Cool. Thank you, Elaine. I hadn't heard that, so that's helpful. We'll make a note of that in our documents too. Good stuff. Empower's been really good to work with. If you have questions, at least from my standpoint as software company, they've been very, very helpful in answering questions. They respond pretty quickly. I would imagine that that's largely true for uh, you all as well if you need to reach out to them. So really good questions. Cool. If I didn't miss any questions, we'll keep trucking right along here. Um, so that's the build process right there. It's right next door. It's click a button, make sure you got your dates correct, make sure your paychecks have been moved to history. You click build. Once that's done, um, it will save your file. And a couple of things I'm going to note about the file here, and this might be a little hard to see with my screen share going on. My font seems like it's a little small at the moment, but what it's going to do is it's going to generate a CSV file. You're going to notice that it has a very long, kind of ridiculous name. Do not change this. This is a format that Empower says that it has to work this way. And if you change it, they won't accept the upload. Um, so just keep that in mind. The other thing I'll mention is that this is a CSV file, and as you all know, you can open a CSV in Excel, which is perfectly fine. You're certainly more than welcome to open it up, take a look at the data, make sure it looks correct to you. The one thing I'll mention though is some of the formatting that we had to implement based on the bank specifications. Uh, Excel seems to want to change it from time to time when you open the file. If you open the file in Excel, my advice is after you've looked at the data inside of it, go back and recreate another new transmittal with data that's not been modified from Excel. So just be very, very careful about opening the file in Excel because it might mess things up. And when you go to upload it to Empower, they may not accept it because Excel has this bad habit of changing the data formatting without asking your permission. So what you fundamentally do here, and unfortunately I don't have access to the Empower website, so I can't show you this part, but you're just going to take this CSV file, go to their website, and upload it. From there, they will review the file. They'll reach out to you if there's any feedback. We're pretty confident that we've got most of the data filled in correctly with all the pieces and parts that they've asked for. But if they share any feedback with you as a business manager, please feel free to forward that over to us in case we need to tweak anything, make adjustments. About 3 weeks ago, we had a bunch of you very, very helpfully download a beta version that we'd put together, generated some files, and you shared them with the bank. The bank was very gracious and gave us a bunch of information on things that we needed to tweak and adjust. So um, that's fundamentally the process. Casey, can the Percy file be built when checks are in history? Yes, it absolutely can. Yeah, so the main Percy transmittal will actually work either way. They can be in paychecks or they can be in history. Um, that transmittal will actually work from both. That's a good question. Like I said, we ran into a technical problem with our 401k tool. And in the interest of getting it out to everyone, we just opted to have a note that says move it to history. So good question. Okay. Correct. So the advice here would be you probably don't want to submit the transmittal for the 401k until your payroll is complete. And once you've moved it to history, then you can be sure that the numbers are accurate. But yes, to build the Empower file, you move the current checks, and if you're working on them, just don't build the file until you're done. Um, yeah, we realize it's a little bit of a difference from the main transmittal, but until we can figure out the technical aspect of how to get both to work concurrently, we're just having everyone move to history for the moment. But yes, Empower file current checks must be moved to history. Good question. Cool. So that's the process. The question is, when is this coming? And we wrapped up some final testing this morning. One of the things I'll mention is we're trying to be very, very careful with payroll updates, especially when we're building something brand new. We want to be really, really sure that the release that we share with you doesn't impact your regular ability to get people paid and all of those things. So we've just been doing some extra final testing. And I've been telling everyone the email's coming. It's definitely coming. Obviously, I was able to demo it for you this morning. So assuming we don't run into any major roadblocks between now and this afternoon, you'll see an email in your inbox with information about where it's ready to download and some of the instructions for updating your AB report and running this particular transmittal. Cool. Any other questions about 401k transmittals? Um, did I miss anything in the chat there? Okay. So a couple of notes about the 401k. This is kind of an initial release. Along the way, as folks have been testing for us, there's been some really good ideas of things that we could add. One of those things is like a printed report that lists all the contributions, similar to what the main transmittal does. We're looking at getting that added here in the near future. And then as you guys use this, if you have suggestions for what makes your life easier, certainly open to hearing what those are and figuring out ways to make this as smooth as possible, given that you now have an extra thing to generate and upload due to some of the changes there. Super. And of course, if you need help along the way, once you've got the update up and running, you can just reach out and David or I will jump right in and figure out what's going on. All right. I also said we'd talk a little bit about some updates in process. So there's a couple of things, like I said, you may have heard rumblings about some changes with ICY, and there's some additional changes coming to Percy about the middle of this year. So I don't really have much to demo for these two particular things. But what I'll mention is for IC specifically, they are doing what they're calling a modernization project, where they're updating the way that data gets shared with the state of Idaho. And I'll spare you all the technical details, but instead of being a file-based upload where you generate a file and then you go upload it to their website, they're shifting to what they're calling a more modern approach, which it's basically you click a button, the software will connect to their servers and share the appropriate data automatically. That should be a really nice change in that you really won't have to do much of anything on your end, and you won't have to generate files and upload them manually any longer. The idea is they want to automate the whole process from beginning to end. So we have that currently in process. Don't have a firm timeline for when we're going to share that with you all publicly, but similar to what we did with the 401k, we may send out an email with a call for some beta testers. And it'll work just like we did last time. We'll send the email out, the first 20 or maybe 25 people to respond. We'll get to do a little beta test for us. So that's in process. Middle of this year, Percy is actually revamping the main Percy transmittal. So the 401k has changed. And June or July of this year, there will be additional changes to the main Percy transmittal. I've got some initial information about what that looks like, and it's a pretty major overhaul of the existing system. So a couple of things that are changing is you're all going to love this. Instead of one transmittal file, you may end up submitting up to 3 different Percy transmittal files plus the 401k. And it has to do with how they're wanting the data reported. So it's fundamentally the data is identical from our initial reading of all their documentation, but they want to split it up across different uploads in different places. So once I've got more information about what that looks like, we'll certainly share it with you all. But what that means is that you'll see some additional changes coming to the retirement section of the payroll program in the next couple of months due to some changes with Percy and how they want data reported. So those are 2 big projects that are in the pipeline. So if you hear rumblings about those types of changes, we're already working on getting some of that stuff added to the program. The final thing that I want to share with you, and again, I said this might be a little bit of a sneak peek since you're all here in the webinar, is we've been working very, very hard at what we're calling a modernization project for our software. And don't misunderstand this. This is a in process project that we're working on, and we plan on releasing as soon as we reasonably can. But it's not quite ready yet. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to show you some of what that looks like. And on the surface, you're going to be like, yeah, this isn't all that vastly different. But what we're doing now is really, really important for laying a foundation to allow us to develop a little more quickly when it comes to features that are mandated by the state or the banks, or just nice things that improve your ability to do your job. So I'm going to go ahead and log in. And like I said, on the surface, you're not going to notice much of anything different here. But one thing I'll highlight why this matters. I'll do this on the report format because this is something that you're all very familiar with. And what we're doing with this modernization project is basically rewriting a bunch of code that's on the little older side, and it's giving us the ability to do really simple things like when your mouse hovers over a line, and this might be hard to see, the line is highlighted so you know which line you're looking at any given moment. The ability to select a line and then compare it to another line on the screen. And these are seemingly minor on the surface, but underneath the hood, we're kind of rewriting some of the, we'll say engines that allow us to display things on the screen. And then it's going to give you the ability to do some nice, comparisons or make it easier to see stuff. One of the things that I'm really excited about, and I can't demonstrate it without just completely making the screen share go bonkers, but for those of you that want to be able to scale your text to a larger size, it's going to do that now when this modernization project is completed. So we've been working on this for a while, and this kind of new look and feel and the ability to, again, this seems like a small thing, but the ability to do some of this stuff is in process, and we're pushing really hard to get this out in front of you. And the nice thing is it doesn't change anything about what your normal workflows. All the buttons are in the same places, all the tools work exactly the same, but we're going to have some really neat features that we can implement once we've kind of completed the modernization stuff. So that's a little sneak peek at some of the stuff that is going to be a little different here pretty shortly, and it's little quality of life things that will make your job a little easier as a business manager when you're working inside of the software. So um, like I said, don't get too excited just yet. I don't know exactly when we're going to be done. This is a pretty big undertaking, but I'm very excited about some of the modernization aspects that will just help you guys do things a little more seamlessly along the way. So I'm not going to spoil too much else about what's happening with the modernization piece, but just know the interface is getting a facelift, and then that's going to allow us to build some really neat tools, hopefully by Q3, Q4 of this year. So I'm going to stop sharing there. And similar to the other stuff I mentioned about beta testing, we will likely have a call out for beta testers for the modern build. I suspect many of you will be interesting. Yeah, good question. The goal, Kyla, for that is yes, the ability to copy and paste or move is pretty high on our priority list. It's one of the more challenging aspects of working with a very large report format. We're hopeful that some of what we're doing under the hood will allow some of those features to get built, because we agree that would be incredibly helpful to copy, paste, drag and drop. Um, the ability to rearrange your accounts just with a mouse click, that would be pretty cool. Um, yeah, really, really good question. Um, and for those of you, I just want to make sure I'm also super clear about the status of the CISM version, which we don't have too many users on the CISM version any longer. We've converted a lot of you over the last 6 months, which is great. Just want to be very clear. All of these things that we're building, especially compliance related stuff, those will all get added to the ISOM versions. So if you're still running one of those old versions, that's okay. All your compliance stuff gets added to those programs because it's non-negotiable. So I just want to be very clear. I talked to someone about a week or two ago who had that question about whether or not they were going to get the new compliance features. So if you're an ISOM user, compliance features are coming. You won't get the modernization look and feel, but you will get all the compliance pieces. So super. Well, any final questions that I can answer for you? 401k questions, AB report updates in process that you're curious about? Okay. Oh, good, Mark. Yeah. Matter of fact, we're planning. I'll be sending you an email here probably the next week or two to talk through some of that. So yeah. Uh, do or die date for Empower. Let me double check, Kyla. I want to say May. It's in May 16th, I believe. Let me see. Let me pull up my notes real quick. But yeah, it's like the middle of May is when it's the do or die. They want you starting to submit uh, that file to them. 1 second, I can give it to you.
Their last email says all test files must be certified prior to July 1.
Oh, well, hey, that's even easier. They updated it since then. Great. Mark, is that you? Yeah, it was you. Yeah, thank you, Mark. Yeah, I just got the email pulled up. July 1. So we actually have a little more time than I thought. But what they're fundamentally asking everyone to do is generate a test file, send it over to them, and let them review it. So
Yeah, so your May deadline is not a bad idea.
Yeah, we're still planning on May, is our goal. And we're really hoping by the end of this month at the absolute latest is everything's all buttoned up is our
Yeah.
goal. Because we have to start shifting to some of the other big compliance issues that need to be completed here middle of the year. So all right, everyone. Well, I really appreciate you all joining me. If there's anything that I or David can do for you on the support front, please don't hesitate to reach out, give us a call. And just a reminder, now that David's a part of the team, support hours are basically from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So as long as we're not at lunch, if you give us a phone call, someone's going to answer, or as long as we're not super busy, or shoot us an email, support@i2mfinance.com. And I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your Thursday.